Okay, glad to have you all here today. This community call today is a racial healing workshop. We have the RHI Racial Healing Initiative team with us today to lead some embodying resilience work in the wake of the US election. The title for the call today is Embodying Resilience, a Path Forward Together. I'm Erin McCauley. I'm the RCC Admin Assist. I welcome any pronouns in reference to me. I also invite you to share your pronouns if you would like to do that. And if you would like to update your names on your screen to include your retreat center, your organization, just so we can get to know each other a little better, please do that as well. Before we get started, I'll also share really quickly our core values and community agreements, which help shape how we like to hold space together. So I'll do that right now. So here we have the core values of RCC. These are the values that RCC was founded and sort of gather around. It's the power of place and space, the interplay of inner and outer work, and a commitment to universal flourishing. As the idea is that retreat centers especially are places that are grounded and set aside from normal everyday life, that give us space where we can do both very deep inner work as well as outer work to help bring change and positive transformation to the world around us. And that transformation, both of self and of the world around us, is not just for our human life, but also for the land around us, for non-human life, for nature as well. So we're hoping that the work that we do here together brings positive impact all around. And these are our community agreements on the call. We follow these guidelines as we gather in space together. We ask that you speak from your own experience. Your voice and your story are important. So if something is coming up for you, we invite you to speak into the space and share your stories with us. We're all knowers and learners in this space. So our facilitation team has practices to teach us. You might also have something to teach us as well. So we really value what you bring into the space and invite you to share what you know. Silence can be centering, and movement and sound can be too. So we'll probably go through a different number of practices today that involve different ways of engaging, both with sound and movement as well as with silence. We do ask that you keep others' stories confidential, but share what you learned. So take your learning about the practices here today to your friends, your family, your colleagues. But if someone shares a vulnerable story, especially if they have asked for the recording to be paused, please do keep those stories confidential. And yeah. And if you feel like you would like to share something and you would not like to have it recorded, please give me some kind of indication. I'll pause the recording when folks ask. This is an invitational space, so participate as you are able. We understand that folks at retreat centers are very busy. They have packed calendars. So if you need to come late, leave early. If you need to be off screen for a little bit, just know that we are glad to have you here in whatever capacity that you're able to be here. We also ask that you hold discomfort with grace and deep listening, especially with subjects that are tense or feel a little fraught, especially today. You might feel things that don't feel quite comfortable, and we'll do our best to hold each other in that space. And to just listen to yourself very, very carefully. We're not here to fix each other. We're here to companion each other on our journeys. And one of our favorite quotations that we always like to lift up is "Choice is the smallest unit of liberation," from Dr. Leticia Nieto. So if there are ways that we can offer you more choices, opportunities to bring more choice into the space, please let us know and reach out to us. And with that, I will turn it over to our team. I believe Marissa has an uh, initial practice to start us out with.
Thanks, Erin, for creating our container for today. I'm Marissa Metellica, a core consultant on the RHI team. And before we begin our first activity, this is just a little warm up to get us in our bodies and dropped in a bit. So you're welcome to go off camera and just, have the space you need to be doing your own thing. And take a moment with eyes open or closed. You can be seated, standing, laying down, however feels good. Just take a moment to drop below the neck and just feel. You don't have to stay still. You can jiggle and wiggle and sway and just feel into what's true for you at this moment. And as you feel into it, scan for some sensation, especially noticing if there are places that feel heat, tingling, contraction, or tightness. Maybe give a little extra moment in the jaw to just notice what it's doing. And welcome to any and all sensation. Maybe notice if you feel numbness, that's also absolutely right for you. Notice if there are intense sensations around contraction or heat, particularly. I'm going to invite us all to just discharge any energy that isn't serving your wellness. And that can look like gentle shaking of the arms. So you might just like shake through your arms and your hands or bounce into your heels if you're standing, or just wiggle things and imagine sending the energy down and out. And if you're feeling bigger contraction in this moment, feelings of frustration, anger, rage, again, all of these are welcome. And these particular emotions need movement and sound to move through us. Otherwise, they stay in the body and they can turn to illness or autoimmune issues, other illnesses. And so we want to just release whatever is not serving us. So you can be in choice here about how you'd like to do that. If you want to do some bigger shaking, bigger movement, particularly removes anger from the body, you can take a pillow if you've got one nearby and scream into it a couple of times. You can punch it if that feels like moving the extremities, shaking it out, letting release anything that is not serving your wellness in this moment. You can add sound however it feels good. And be big here, as big as you feel like being. If you want to scream and let it out within reason, get that pillow, just go for it. We'll have a few more breaths of space here for you to just be able to do whatever you need to do. And in another 10 seconds, we're going to wind down. So let loose anything that still feels like it needs expressing. And then slowly come to a more still place physically. So you can just check in with the body. Notice if there's any difference right now. And welcome if you want to drop into the chat as you come back, your mood in this moment, how you're feeling. Apologies for my background noise. So if it feels right, finish the sentence starter, I feel. Just check in and see where folks are in this moment. Seeing some sadness. If it feels more accessible to come off mute and speak your mood, feel free. Feel tiredness, yeah. Thanks for letting us know how you are. You can keep the feelings coming if you want to share, and I'll pass it to Lauren.
We're going to engage in a meditative practice, which works well when you've been able to discharge some energy in the body and be present with it, so that we can sit just for a few moments to activate our heart chakra. This is a Tibetan Tantra elemental practice. I'll just give a little blurb before we start, which these elemental meditations involve gathering and enriching the energy from a particular elemental source as we're seeing the shape and expanding it. And then we'll expand the energy. And as we're shrinking it or compressing it, we're also enriching that energy, placing it back into our body so that we can create a surge of energy that can heal energetic breaks in the body. In Tibetan medicine, there's this belief that everything is made up of a combination of one or more of these elements: fire, earth, air, water, and also space element, which might be a little bit new. Space is considered the mother of all elements, which means that all elements kind of sit inside of space. Everything arises in space, exists in space, and also can dissolve into space. So we're going to be working with this sacred element to manifest our awareness and create some balance within our bodies. Hoping that some of that balance that happens within can also transfer to our waking experience outside of the body. All right, so we'll start with observing this kind of posture, which is that you're sitting with your back or your spine as straight as it can be. You're going to slightly tilt your chin. Your tongue is going to be resting at the roof of your mouth behind your front teeth. You can make connections with your hands by, placing them in your lap or beside you. The invitation is to do this meditation with your eyes open, but if that's not comfortable for you, you can certainly close them. And so let's just take a few breaths in connecting with the body. Some nice deep breaths following your breath. And we're going to start visualizing. I want you to visualize a pinpoint of white light at the center of your chest, right in front of your spine. And you're going to mark this white pinpoint of light as space. Watch as this pinpoint of light expands to a sphere about the size of a large grape. Space is the antidote to ignorance and separation. So if you're thinking about what many are experiencing in the world: white supremacy, bias, discrimination, disembodiment. These are all factors that separate us from our own selves and others, and can also bind one in the state of ignorance. And so our goal is to heal that element that might be within us, but also extending that healing externally. Space allows us to connect with universal wisdom, expanding our consciousness to perceive all that we're connected to, all that it is around us. It has the power to pacify our thoughts and our emotions, as well as our bodies, with resilience, grace, agility, both in our external and our internal experience. So we're holding all of those intentions around space. See, sense, feel its potency. And then you'll watch as this sphere of white light exits your body so that it is about an arm's length in front of you, raising it slightly so it is parallel with your eyes, seeing this sphere of white light. Feel into its expansion as it is large enough for you to sit comfortably inside. So allow yourself to sense that feeling of resting in space, the mother of all elements, connecting to how you see the Divine Mother and all of its functions. And in the next breath, we're gonna see it expand, this sphere of white light, so it encompasses your place of practice, whether you're at home or in your office. Expanding this sphere of white light again, so that it encompasses your city and all who reside. And our next breath, watch as this sphere of white light expands to encompass your state or your province. Expanding again to encompass your country, wherever you may be in the world. And then we'll expand that energy so that it encompasses the planet Earth, all of Earth's inhabitants. All are wrapped around this element of space. We're going to expand this sphere of white light so it encompasses our solar system, all the planets, sun, moons. And then the next breath, expanding again to encompass the galaxy, stars, the Milky Way. Expanding our awareness to include the entire universe and beyond, all that you can imagine space is reaching. And rest here in your awareness. Space, which has the power its pacifying power. And we've expanded all of that rich energy, and we're going to start to shrink it and bring it back. So shrinking this sphere of white light so that it encompasses the galaxy. Shrinking to include the solar system. And now Earth. Shrinking to include your country, your state, shrinking to include your city, and we're shrinking to include your place of practice. And now we're shrinking so that you are included in this sphere of white light, feeling the openness of space. And now you will shrink this sphere of white light so that it is once again parallel to you. You are looking at it about an arm's length in front of you. Lowering this sphere so it is parallel with your heart. And then allowing your body to draw that energy into your heart chakra, locking it in place right in front of the spine. And watch as it shrinks half in size and then half again until it's just once again that pinpoint of light, seeing it vanish like breath on a mirror, dissolving inside of you, and then rest here in your awareness. And when you are ready, you can allow your awareness to fill the room. All right. Are there any reflections that folks want to share about how that was? How did you experience it?
I didn't want to come back from being so expansive. That was nice.
I had a moment of resistance in the expansion because what popped in my thoughts was like Indiana and Republican, and I was just like, I don't want them. And then I was like, oh, I mean, that's not it. You can be expansive. And like I literally like had to I felt like a child said, "Oh, you got to come along with me." I'm like, "Oh, okay." But then once I like let a little of that go, it did allow me just to continue to expand. But I really felt like these clear pieces of resistance that came about in trying to expand again and again, no political like the instructions or your guidance was not even about that, but that came about, and so it was just really interesting in that context. And so that was a big piece. And then other visual thing that just struck me was um there was a woman who was pregnant in her belly, and it was something around like giving birth to something. And so that was just this other thing of thinking about being expansive, and that, I got to sit with it some more. So,
Beautiful. Thank you. Well, yeah, space I had mentioned is the antidote to separations. I wonder if some of that resistance was like you clearing out the blocks of separation that you're experiencing in your body, in your kind of waking life, and releasing that as a way of opening up the heart.
yeah.
Oh, just a thought, but
Yeah.
beautiful reflection. Thank you. Thank you to Erin, that feeling of not wanting to come back. Anybody else? Okay. It's on you, Arlene, right?
Yeah. Well, we are a small and mighty group. And so let me introduce myself. Arlene Peterson. I am also a core consultant with the Racial Healing Initiative, but I also have the wonderful pleasure of being a part of a retreat center called Lindenwood Conference and Retreat Center in Plymouth, Indiana, as a part of the Poor Handmaids of Jesus Christ, an order of religious women. And so, what our plan was that if it was a really large group, we would break into some individual groups and then facilitate some discussions around some questions that we have. But since our group is small, what I'd love for us to do is to maybe take an opportunity to, grab a piece of paper or maybe your journal. And then we'll play some music for a little bit of time where we're going to post kind of the three questions that were a part of kind of the introduction to this particular session, and allow you to kind of just journal for a little bit regarding those questions. And then once we spent some time kind of journaling, we'd love to come back to the full group and then have folks just maybe talk a little bit of what you start to notice. Notice what feelings or vibrations or images or sensations start to come about as you start to write and reflect on the questions that we have. And again, use this as an opportunity, a moment, and then there may be a question or something that is nagging at you that you'd love to be able to expand more on in this space. And so, allow even those questions to be a part experience. And so I'll read the questions just so that we kind of bring them into the space. What are you noticing in your body and emotions following the election? How can we support each other in moving forward with courage and compassion? And then what intentions can we set as a community to embody resilience and to care for one another? And again, a gentle reminder, and that this is recorded, but we also recognize that if during the sharing you don't want information as a part of the recording, please just make note of that so Erin can stop the recording if needed. But I think, Erin, you've got some music maybe queued up, and we'll just spend maybe about 8 to 10 minutes in some journaling. Again, on camera, off camera, whatever your heart and mind is allowing and wanting you to be in this moment, allow that to be. And so we'll just spend some time journaling, and then we'll come back. Okay. All right. Thanks.
I don't have some music immediately ready, but I'm going to work on that and have it going momentarily.
So you think you know Wix.
About a couple of more minutes and we'll allow folks to kind of maybe wrap up some thoughts that you may be scribing. And then mm, all right. We hope you had some time to just allow some thoughts and vibrations and movements and things to kind of flow through you. And I really do open it up for anybody who would be willing to share. You know, the one thing is with retreat centers, the stories we tell are so important in helping to continue to build community and helping to continue to build the world that we all know we want to live into. And so, again, inviting you again, we could start with the first question, we could start with the third. I really wanted to open it up and allow folks to maybe share the story that is bubbling up for you.
I'll start because this is a very unexpected experience to me in this situation. about the same time that we had this election, just a few days before the election, I went to the clinic. I'd been having some, I had a cervical polyp. And while that didn't seem to be causing me any problems, I also knew that some other things that I were experiencing could be that polyp, or they could be something more ominous. So I went to the clinic, and they do a nice job of like clamping and twisting and popping that polyp right off there, which is like, okay, that was simple. But then there were biopsies and things that were done in the interior of the womb. And what's important in this story is that this is all related to my womb. So it is the center of my experience of being life-giving within my body. I have 3 wonderful children. So that womb has served me well. It was a place of nesting and nurturing and nourishing 3 new lives as they came to the point where they could live outside of my body. And I can't stop feeling this amazing gratitude centered in my womb, that I had this opportunity to be life-giving, and that doesn't stop no matter what happens from here on in with I'm having a D&C in less than a week, and we don't know, they'll take a look around, they're doing a hysteroscopy as well. So they'll get a look inside and say, okay, here's what we need to do next. Going to implant a device to continuously administer progesterone, which should help keep cells that aren't right from growing. So anyway, all of this stuff is going on, centered on my identity and my capacity as a life giver. And all of the things that I think I would be experiencing at heightened levels with the disappointment in the election results, the concerns for the future, this keeps drawing me back to being a life giver. So I am immersed in this sense of gratitude that comes from the gift I've been given within my body, how I've been invited to use my embodiedness to be a holy presence in the world. So I don't know what comes next. I don't know what comes next for my body, and I don't know what comes next for my emotional state. But I know that I hope I can always hold this and treasure this moment of feeling so full of gratitude. And I didn't see that coming.
Truly appreciate that, Wendy. A lot of gratitude.
I don't have any stories, and I have to leave in a few minutes. I have another phone call in about 10 minutes. But the things that I thought I wrote that I thought were important to share with all of you. I think the thing that I'm like most concerned about right now, and I'm obviously disappointed with the election too, is that I'm really worried about like the anger that is scripted, that I think that being that's used in a manipulative way, in this election and a lot of elections around the world, that has the effect of many times hurting individuals and communities, and and I want to be supportive of people, starting by myself, support myself, make sure I'm taking care of myself, be supportive of people I know, be supportive of people I don't know, maybe in communities I don't even understand well. I think that's really important. And I think the one thing I just want to, leave with I'm saying this, maybe more for myself, but maybe it resonates with you too. But I remember that, democracy is not a spectator sport. This election's over, and I think, it's, to me, the results suck. I'm not at all happy with it, but I'm like, you know what? That's one part of it. There's more to do, and to be engaged. It might not be day by day, because some days I might not have any energy to deal. But when I do have energy, concentrate on the things that I can, change or stop when something's unjust. And that's something I want to do going forward. Those are my thoughts about this whole time. Thank you.
No, Joe, thank you. Thank you for sharing. The democracy, it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. Like, there is so many roles that we all get to play in that. And that was just one piece of it all. There's still so much work that we get to do. So thank you. I absolutely appreciate that.
You're welcome.
This is Grace. Can you hear me? I will say thank you for the two speakers who just shared. I definitely know that I felt a willingness in myself to stay present. I think I feel some sadness, maybe some grief nearby, and I definitely had some moments of grief. But I have come from a place from the 60s, right? You're born in the 60s, and reminded of the path of Martin Luther King and my capacity to watch certain, like for the first time ever, I could watch something on the Holocaust. And because I grew up with violence nearby, I couldn't do that. And I noticed, was it this year? I noticed something changing within me. So I believe Spirit, God, Infinite Presence is preparing me for a time like this, because I can hold grief. I can embrace it in my body and feel it. I'm learning to do that now with anger, and be able to really choose. So I wrote choice, like to be present and to choose. And so I know that I am practicing more meditations, and I feel like I want to move forward in community. That healing is happening and loving is happening in community. So I just know that I'm here for a purpose. I love what the woman said about her womb. I never had children. I never had children, but I feel something birthing, and probably was birthing forward all these 60 years, but moving forward now. And I'm looking for the words to really express love in action for this peace and unity that we create as we work together. So that's what I would just say. I appreciated the meditations and coming here, because I am ready now to talk and to listen, to be a participant in this life in a whole different way. So I'm grateful. I'm grateful to feel the response in my body, to respond to the call. So thank you.
Thank you, Grace. Thank you. Thank you. That's one of the elements around the Racial Healing Initiative that I think we've worked a lot as a team and as this whole process, is that when we are able to have those racial healing retreats with retreat centers, we really do that work around sitting in presence and embodying what is sometimes difficult, what is sometimes joyful. It's the mix of all of those things. But when you're able to really identify, know, feel, visualize, sense into the anger or upsetness or disappointment, and then come out on the other end, still being able to have a conversation with someone, still being able to, recognize that you're still whole and you're still working to build yourself. There is something incredibly magical and transformation about that. And so, yeah, I'll let one of the other RHI consultants join in if they want to. And thank you, Joe.
I guess what arises for me, Arlene, reflecting on what you were just saying, is that, and also it feels connected to what Grace was saying, to be grateful to feel ready and in power and in capacity to show up and to be present, and through a lot of what will likely be uncomfortable. And that is a practice, that takes many of us our whole lives. But it gives me comfort and also steels my direction, knowing that resilience is something I can cultivate and am working on. And I just want to offer also, if we have a little extra time near the end, we can offer a couple of resilience practices that actually work to expand our windows of tolerance for discomfort so that we can stay true to our course, even when things are hard.
Thanks, Marissa.
I'm just really appreciating the the groundedness, the centeredness. If I have any story to share, I mean, I took Tai Chi for a number of years, and really, really have loved the practice and have sunk into it. But one of the things that my instructor, he would always catch my eye, and he'd look at me, and then he'd take a deep breath, and then his shoulders would kind of come up to here, and then he'd go, because he noticed that my shoulders are always like living up here by my ears, and I'm keeping all of my tension back here. And it's funny because I had a massage actually at the RHI retreat, and the massage therapist said to me, like, "What kind of work do you do? What is going on back here?" And I'm like, "I don't know. That's just where it lives. It all lives right there, right between my shoulder blades." So yeah, so any any practices that really help me like get out of that like tension that loves to live like between my shoulder blades, and like that just happens like throughout the day. I try to be aware of it, but it keeps coming back. It likes to go back there, you know. So there's a lot of work that I need to do to continue to open that up and be present with it. And so these practices that help come down from there and to be really embodied just are such a gift. And especially in this time, because, you know, my reactions to the election felt like it was just like an explosion of like a million different things, like heart heaviness, dread, fear for people I love, for myself, for needing to organize. Okay, what do I do next? Like, who needs help? Like, how to, you know, all of this stuff like going on in my head, and just really needing to take a moment and be like, okay, come down out of your shoulders. Your Tai Chi instructor right now is looking at you and telling you, okay, take those shoulders down from beside your ears and let's sink into the body, and let's really be present, really listen, really hear what my body needs, what my spirit needs, and then start making very gentle connections with other people, and move from there. Like, that's something else that RHI taught me last year, that moving from the centered place instead of like rushing to like try to reach out beyond like where I'm centered, to really just keep centered, stay there. Yeah, that's what's coming up for me right now.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you. I'm going to remember your Tai Chi instructor. I'm going to be like, okay.
So grateful for all the shares, and feel reflections of myself in all of them. So thank you. It's interesting. Just thinking a lot, Wendy, about your share and the Toltec elders that I have that are talking about this transition from the fifth to the sixth sun that we're in, and these big cycles for humanity. And the sixth sun is supposed to be about bringing back the role of the sacred feminine, the life givers, in a very particular way. Yeah, so thank you for your sharing. Yeah, some of what's been coming up for me in that first question around what's been going on with my body, it's very interesting to reflect back in 2016. And I know that I've shared this with the team in the past. I remember a particular moment when he who shall not be named was in the news about what he said about grabbing women, and having this experience of all, and I had already been doing a lot of womb healing for myself and for my ancestral line over many years. But I remember this tightening in my womb area, and in 2016 when that came out, and this kind of intense fear energy in that area, but knowing it wasn't mine, because I'm often asked to transmute things for the collective, and have been doing a lot of work around that in my mom and my mom's line, and both lines, both sides, my parental lines. But I remember just getting this message of, you know, there's a lot of energy in the collective field around the fear in women's bodies when someone comes into power that condones abuse of women, and ancestral memories of that. What that makes possible, right, is that there's a permission for other men to do things that they might not otherwise do. And so I remember going to my altar and clearing some of that energy for myself, for my ancestors, for the collective in 2016. And so it was really interesting to me. A few days before the election, I was at this Edge Funders meeting to talk about rematriation and women's leadership and the need to move money into these directions with folks, funders. And I hurt my back at that meeting. And it was healing, but still injured when the election happened. And the next morning it was so much worse. And I could barely move and I couldn't sit and I couldn't sleep. And so for a few days, it actually got quite worse, even worse than the initial injury right after the election. And again, I was kind of speaking to my ancestors, like what needs to be cleared here around whatever is in our lineages, and particularly with the two grandparents who were more aligned with white supremacy, I would say, and more aligned with, yeah, just the numbing of their bodies and shutting down and not dealing with the trauma in their own lines. And so just had a lot of conversations with them, went to the water a lot and asked them to release with me. And then also, said if this is for the collective as well, to release some of this. So spent a lot of time kind of in grief, in the water, and moving what felt like was both mine and not mine around ancestral lines of, in the Toltec, we talk about the lower back is holding patterns of the old winds that our ancestors carried and passed down the line, and patterns of self-sabotage. So it's just breathing out and releasing and crying and moving energy that was about the collective and about my own ancestors around this alignment with things that don't serve life. Yeah. So my back is pretty much almost all better. It's a little bit still there, but it's almost all gone. So that's been up for me a lot around moving things in our energetic and physical bodies, and how important our practice is if we're going to be in courage and compassion with each other, how important community is if we're going to be resilient and caring for one another. We had a good team meeting recently where, a lot of us were saying, like, I was sad, but not surprised. And at the same time, I know my ancestors survived similar moments and worse moments in the past, and they are with us now to help us. So a lot of that was coming true too. When you were doing the visualization, Lauren, I could feel all my ancestors behind me. I could feel all the 7 generations ahead of me. I could feel Mother Earth kind of sending up energy to our core to nourish us. I could feel like my connections to Andromeda and other places, sending energies in, and it was just filling me up and filling me up. It's like, we're here to help you. We're here you can't co-create this new world without us. That message just kept coming through in the meditation. So yeah, the more we can create, protect time to be in practice together and to replenish ourselves energetically and spiritually, because we are going to face some things ahead. And they're not new, but how we show up can be new. How we can show up for ourselves and how we can show up for each other can be new. And so, just holding a lot of gratitude for everyone on the call and your willingness to make the time to go into practice with each other and to see what that stirs up in you. I'm just really grateful. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Brenda. I'll leave space for maybe one more comment, and then Marissa, I think we still maybe have some time, or we still, I want to make sure, Brenda, you have enough time in your space. And so
I'm always down for more practice. So I won't need too much time. And I'm just curious, Kathy, if you're with us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not, that's okay. Just wanting to hear from you if you're with us.
Mm-hmm. Well, thanks everybody for the stories, for the sharing, for the embodiment and understandings. In my thoughts around resilience, I said I keep the ideas of nonviolence and any means necessary. I can be both in my resilience. I want to create a space for my rage and disbelief and the need for equality and justice. Just remember the resilience. And I'll turn it over to you, Brenda.
Well, I want to make space because I think Marissa offered if there's another resilience practice that you wanted to offer, to go ahead and do so. We have time.
Okay. I can just show everybody a quick, you can do this wherever you are, seated or standing. It's called a body lock, and it serves to balance the hemispheres of the brain and settle the body. So if you're in a state of activation, this can be really helpful in bringing the body back to a settled state. And you just clasp your hands like this, and then you turn them right side up. And then you're going to lock the lower body by taking one leg over the other with the outer edges of your feet touching, if possible. So you have one leg over the other and your arms are locked. And then you just take some deep breaths. So the helping your body come back to a settled state, especially after activation, promotes the rest and digest space that the nervous system needs to be in to be able to maintain a healthy interior. So if the nervous system, it doesn't get time to rest and digest, you can stay in an activated state that is producing high levels of cortisol that we know are really deleterious for the body. So just practicing this actually helps just your body to remember to come back to being in a settled state. And you can do that for about a minute and it will have an effect on your nervous system. And the other one you can do as we move into Brenda's next activity is heart hold. And this actually helps to, if you're at all familiar with polyvagal theory, this works with the vagus nerve, which connects all of your major organ systems. And so if you're wanting to just help your body come back to stasis, you put your right hand over your heart with your fingertips at your collarbone. And then take your opposite hand and just add some pressure. And this is putting pressure directly on the vagus nerve. And then you just practice having some slower, deeper breath. And this can support nervous system resilience. So I'll leave you with that as Brenda takes us on the next part of our journey together.
Thank you. Those were wonderful. Grateful for this precious body and its ability to reset when it needs to. Yeah, just sending a lot of love to everyone on the call. And I'll invite us, just asking Spirit a little bit about what it wants me to share as we were going through things. I'm going to invite us, I'll share a little writing from a friend's book, which is about connecting with the sun at different times of day. So I'm going to invite you to connect with the sun at some point as well, and then we'll close with the reading. So this is from my friend's book, Seeds of the Universe, A Journey Through Mashika Cosmology. And it talks about a wise teacher connecting his students to the sun at different times of day. So we have a lot of practices around connecting with the energy of the sun. And I thought the sun might have some good things for us to think about. Imagine that one day a wise teacher calls his students to the top of the mountain at dawn in the Huitzlampa. He teaches them how the light of the sun, as it emerges, paints the sky with vibrant colors and speaks to them about the importance of the first knowledge that illuminates their lives, comparing it to the first rays of sun that illuminate the earth. He tells them how this knowledge reflects their own internal mirrors, revealing their strengths and weaknesses. At noon in the Huitzlampa, he takes them to the heart of the forest where the sun's heat is intense. Here he teaches them about resilience and willpower. He explains that just as the sun at its zenith challenges all living beings to endure its heat, they too must learn to face life's challenges with courage and determination. Then at sunset in the Siwatlampa, he takes them to a cliff where they can see the sun setting on the horizon. He speaks to them about the importance of reflecting in the absence of light when the sun goes down and darkness begins to envelop the world. He teaches them to look within, to understand their own shadows, and to find peace in introspection. Finally, at night during Miklampa, under a starry sky in the north, he speaks to them about constant improvement. He explains how each star in the sky represents an opportunity to improve and to learn and to grow. He teaches them that just as stars shine more brightly in the darkness, they too can find their inner light in the most difficult moments. Thus, through teaching of the four directions, the wise teacher shows students how to live in harmony with the cosmos and with themselves, reminding them that just like the Mashika time count, their lives are connected with the vast universe and with every being that inhabits this earth. So I know that this time is calling for so much from us, and but also that many of us agreed to be here in this time. And there's also so many way showers who came before us, so many ancestors who came before us that are guiding us, watching over us now. And that they didn't operate outside of community either. They both were in their own practice, and they also were building community. So I wish for you lots of community, lots of personal practice, lots of community practice, and to know that the way through is together. And the way through is community of practice and belonging and being beloved to yourself, being beloved to each other, being beloved to the non-human world is the way through any things that we have to face that are in the unknown ahead, and that we have everything we need. So what I wanted to do to close is to read a short piece from Alec Baldwin, or James Baldwin, I'm sorry, my brain's not working. And I'm gonna invite you to engage with it in a way of Lectio Divina. And so what I'm gonna invite you to do as I read some of these things is I'm gonna read it through 3 times. And each time I'm gonna ask you to engage with it a little bit differently. The first time I'm gonna ask you just to let the words wash over you and not to try to think too much, to just be in your body and allow the words to wash over you. Then also take a brief pause and read it again. And I'm gonna ask for you to see what bubbles up for you in the second reading. Is there a word or a phrase that stands out to you? And so when we come back together, that you have those kind of specific words that stood out to you. So don't necessarily listen to them in the first round. The first round, just let it wash over you. And the second time, see what wants to stick out and come back to the group with that. All right, so I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so, or just softening your gaze so that you allow it to take in. And as I begin to read, just allow your breath to be lower and slower in your body so you can stay present to how it's washing over you and what wants to come through. One must say yes to life and embrace it whenever it is found. And it is found in terrible places. Nevertheless, there it is. For nothing is fixed forever and forever and forever. It is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to grind down rock. Generations do not cease to be born. And we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. And just breathing in We'll read it a second time and see what stands out for you. One must say yes to life and embrace it whenever it is found. And it is found in terrible places. Nevertheless, there it is. For nothing is fixed forever and forever and forever. It is not fixed. The earth is always shifting. The light is always changing. The sea does not cease to grind down rock. Generations do not cease to be born. And we are responsible to them because we are the only witnesses they have. The sea rises, the light fails, lovers cling to each other, and children cling to us. The moment we cease to hold each other, the moment we break faith with one another, the sea engulfs us and the light goes out. I just invite you to come back and to share the phrase or words or what it brought up for you. Share that the words that stood out for me are generations do not cease to be born, and we are responsible to them. And that someone raised in a very 7 generations mindset, I know they're calling us to do our work.
The lines about not being fixed really stood out to me, that the dual, the potential dual interpretation of fixed. It's not fixed as in fix something that's broken, but also not fixed as in set in stone. So that sense of, yeah, those lines.
It was like the first line or two around saying yes to life that I don't think that was verbatim, but I'm paraphrasing, that stood out for me, and just the conscious decision to be a participant in life as opposed to someone held hostage by it. I want to be open to be in flow with life in the highs and lows.
For me, it was the embracing even the terrible parts of it all, just to embrace, and that overwhelming feeling that you think about when you have this amazing embrace. It can be very life affirming. And for some, it could be an embrace that really could be almost repulsing and hurtful. But that we're here to do a little bit of both.
I think the line that talked about life being in terrible places, but there it is.
There it is.
Thank you, everyone, for making time to be together today and for being in our bodies together and for breathing and moving together. Yeah, I hope for you just that you continue to create the space in your life to be present in your body and in your breath, and to be present with what's arising for you, and to be in courageous times and loving times with yourself and with those around you. Yeah, we're actually done a little bit early. So I want to give you back some time to your day. And thank you for this wonderful team that led us through so much practice together today. Very grateful.
Yeah, thank you all.
Yeah. Ready. Have a good day.
All right.
Hey, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
And sending prayers your way with any biopsies, and all the results are for the
Thank you
highest
very
good.
much.
Yes.
It's a vulnerable spot, but you know, a person needs to practice being in vulnerable spots. Here we go.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you for being with me.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing with us.
Mhm. Take care.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.